Planes soar overhead, sparking the imagination of young Detroiters dreaming of a career in aviation. From vocational education and STEM courses to the Tuskegee Airmen, we have it all covered. American Black Journal visits Detroit City Airport for a special look at African Americans in aviation.
American Black Journal on the Road is funded by the Debbie K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. We are on the road today, coming to you from the Coleman A. Young International Airport in Detroit. We're here for a special show on aviation careers for young people in the city. We'll talk about educational opportunities and programs that provide hands-on experience. Plus, we have some very special guests, members of the Tuskegee Airmen. We also have an audience with us today, and they're here to take part in the airport's open house and the annual Detroit Fly-In. This event brings together pilots, students, and parents for a day of activities, including rides in Cessnas, Pipers, and gliders for the young people. It's organized by Friends of Detroit City Airport and Davis Aerospace Technical High School's PTA, with support from a lot of other organizations. The goal is to expose kids to careers as pilots, mechanics, technicians, and air traffic controllers. Joining me now to talk more about creating the next generation of aviation and aerospace professionals are Detroit Public Schools Superintendent Alicia Merriweather, Brian Smith, who's president of the Tuskegee Airmen National Museum, and Beverly Kendall Walker, who's director of the Friends of Detroit City Airport. Welcome, all three of you, to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
Alicia, I'm going to start with you. It seems to me that this connects really closely with the push for STEM, STEM education in schools. Whether you want to be in aviation or not, the focus on those subjects and those specialties is really important for young people.
Oh, absolutely, and sometimes we call it STEAM, so including the arts.
Put the arts in there too, that's right.
And I think the science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics theme, or what we call a pipeline, when you're looking at the careers that are available, certainly everything that's in aviation is a booming field, and it's been well documented that there's predicted to be a shortage in the aviation field in the future, and so I think not only is it important to look at the pipeline and the CTC connections, but also to look at aviation as a great career choice for our students. And right here in Detroit Public Schools, we have Davis Aerospace. I was going to say,
you're really focusing on it at Davis Aerospace in particular. Talk about that school.
So that school is one of the gems of Detroit Public Schools. And honestly, I was thinking about this on the way out here. How many people don't know about Davis Aerospace? And in the audience today, I know we have people who have graduated from Davis, we have current students at Davis, and we have huge fans of Davis. So I'm thankful to be here today to talk about Davis Aerospace and also just our whole pipeline. I know that our colleagues here have talked about doing some work at Carver STEM, which is with middle school, really talking about aviation at a younger age and getting kids interested. So this is one of those things that we really need to highlight.
But the focus at Davis Aerospace particularly is on these aviation careers, and kids are taking classes there that they wouldn't necessarily be taking at the high school level other places.
Oh, that's absolutely true. If you're going to Davis Aerospace, you do have the opportunity to get your pilot's license.
You can become a pilot, right?
You can become a pilot, and I'm not sure of any other place that you can do that, and that is definitely a Detroit Public Schools advantage.
Brian, I want to talk to you about young people and flight. There's something about that moment, even if you've been on a commercial plane, there's something different about that moment in a small plane, in a Cessna, in a Piper, when lift takes over gravity and drag, and that feeling in your stomach. I would imagine when you're taking these kids up, just the look on their faces at that moment has got to be one of the real payoffs here.
It is, and to hear their comments about, oh, look at the cars, everything looks so neat and
little,
clean.
Right?
And then when you hit a turbulence bump, you know, you hear, oh. But so it's very exciting to take kids on their first flight And we do that here at City Airport. We try once a month between April and October.
And once a month you have these fly-ins, and kids can come out and participate and go up in a plane.
And
right?
it's free.
Yeah.
And the museum also takes that education a little further. We have ACE academies, which are done at Wayne State University, aviation career education. We do a Wild Blue Wonders, which Ms. Merriweather talked about at the Carver STEM Academy, where we go in and talk about aviation on all the careers, not just being a pilot, but air traffic controllers, being maintenance. And at these programs, we try to steer students to Davis Aerospace. Culturally, there is a problem in the city of Detroit
still,
with
you
aviation.
feel like that, what's that about? I mean, is it lack of exposure, or is it just fear about opportunity?
It's the lack of exposure. They don't see anyone like them flying airplanes, and it's something passed down from a parent. A student would raise his hand and says, "I can't go flying." And I said, "Well, why not?" "My mother won't let me." "Well, why not?" "Well, she's scared." So
She's scared, right?
the fear is passed down to the children.
Right, right. And so, how do you sort of overcome that with the kids? I mean, is it just a question of getting them into the plane and taking them up and letting them see that there's nothing to fear, or is there a little more at work there?
There's a little more at work. I do some counseling. Having done this for 20 years, I kind of am able to tell them stories about my fears of flying and how I overcame them. And then you're going to have fears in everything you do in life.
Yeah.
So that this is just one. You have to take a risk. And then once you get them in the airplane, it changes.
Yeah, yeah. Beverly, talk some about City Airport. Very long history here, sometimes controversial, sometimes neglected. I can remember writing a column during the bankruptcy about how I wanted Washington to come and help us out by helping us rethink City Airport and making it more of an opportunity, not just for economic activity, but for that sort of flight, that center of flight in the city. Talk about where we are right now with the airport.
And so continue the legacy of Coleman Alexander Young, which is why my organization was founded, was because his desire for young people in this community to be interested in aviation.
That's right.
And so as a Tuskegee Airman, that was another hook for me to help spread and expose young people. So we've been doing it since 1990. I have a 31-year-old son who flew as a young Eagles, so he is 31, so he flew when he was 10.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for a while, and it's just been phenomenal that once you get a child interested and you can see the light goes on in their eyes, we got them.
Yeah.
And so we want to funnel them into Davis. And so with the challenges that we have with that school now, we want to keep it back to the level in which it was, the standard that it was, and so that we can continue to graduate young people into a job, a high-paying job, straight out of high school. And so that's what we're looking for out of our new superintendents, for some direction. And we also have opportunity with the industry who want to contribute money, but they need to be sure that it's going to Davis High School and nowhere else. And so those kind of issues we're working with to see if that can happen. But we have Boeing, Lockheed, all of these people are looking for qualified, trained young people to go into the field.
Yeah. The airport itself, what would it take investment-wise, from your perspective, to bring it to a level that you would think is where it ought to be?
Well, number one is commitment from the city administration.
Yeah.
We have not had a clear, committed administration since Mayor Young.
Yeah.
And so we need that.
Everybody talks about it, but they don't do anything. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but this airport is very busy. Lots of activity, and not just for charter or corporate. There's a lot of other activity. Just-in-time materials are moved, medical things are moved, people are moved, but not commercial like we want. But it's a very viable airport, and it could be greater.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Could I add to that? The airport has been neglected maintenance-wise, and then we discussed with the airport director about $30 million invested into the airport would make it a viable airport.
Would make a big difference.
Where you could actually bring in not necessarily commercial flights, but definitely cargo and more corporate. For instance, I don't think Dan Gilbert flies out of this airport.
No, right.
And we could make it that he would be comfortable doing that. And that's kind of where what we need to do, about 30 million.
Yeah. Alicia, I want to ask you quickly about Davis. It moved from here to the Go Lightly Technical Center down on Jefferson. Is there a possibility that it could move back here, or is that one of the things that you guys are looking at?
Well, we just had a meeting last week with the fans of Davis, the supporters of Davis, and certainly there's a contingency that would love to move the school back to the airport.
Yeah.
We have to, as a district, investigate the financial liabilities of that and also the legal liabilities. But we are open to discussion and really exploring that conversation more fully. To be truthful, just to piggyback on a couple of comments, you know, as everyone is fully aware, currently Detroit Public Schools is in a financial crisis.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot watch the news any day this week and avoid that topic.
Right.
I think that people need to understand that Davis is another excellent reason that investment in Detroit Public Schools is a great cause.
It shows that when we focus on what matters, get the resources we need, success is possible. I mean,
Success
it's really
is possible. It actually, I would go beyond that. It's possible, that it's imminent. If you have the resources you need, you have the dedicated staff, you have the amazing support of people that are gathered here, how could we not be successful?
Right.
I do also want to say that this piece around corporate investment, the conversation we had earlier in the week around Davis, really what I said to the group gathered is, at this point, Detroit Public Schools cannot step up to the plate like we need to move Davis to the level it should be or could be.
Yeah.
We need corporate
We need support.
sponsorship. And so, you know, you look at Delta with the major hub here out at Metro, you look at Lear, you look at all of these other companies, Boeing, that need the workforce.
Right.
And we have the talent here. Anyone who knows Detroit Public School students, knows the youth in Detroit, you know we have the talent
That's
here.
right.
You know we have kids with a lot of potential. They need opportunity.
Right.
And Davis has the potential of being one of those places for greater opportunity. Right now we have some kids here from Davis today who have had great opportunity, but we need to make more opportunity.
We need to invest in that.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for being here
Thank
on
you.
American Black Journal.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, we're going to continue our conversation about aviation careers with two men who are true role models in the field. But first, here's a look at some important moments in Detroit's Black history.
I'm Ken Coleman with a look back at African American life in Detroit. This week in 1964, My Guy by Mary Wells was the nation's top song.
I'm sticking to my guy like a stamp to a ladder, like birds of a feather. Stick together, I'm telling you from the start, I can't be torn apart from my guy.
In 1918, Coleman Young, the city's first black mayor, was born. And in 1960, radio station WCHD signed on air. It was owned by Bell Broadcasting and featured soul music and jazz. These are significant events this week in Detroit's Black history, taken from the book On This Day, African American Life in Detroit.
All right, when we think of black role models in aviation, the Tuskegee Airmen come really easily to mind. They were the first African-American unit to fly combat planes in the United States Armed Forces. One of the original Tuskegee Airmen, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Jefferson of Detroit, recently received the Bronze Star Medal at the age of 94. Colonel Jefferson is featured in an upcoming documentary that looks at his experiences during World War II when the American military was racially segregated and when he became a prisoner of war. Take a look.
Translated to English meaning air gangster, Luft Gangster was a name given to American airmen by the Nazi regime during World War II.
Left, ho!
Alexander Jefferson, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force,
Right,
retired.
ho!
I was born in 1921 in Detroit, Michigan. When I joined the 332nd, we flew top cover for B-17s and B-24s. As they went into the bombing run, saw a bomber get hit by flak. The damn thing hit,
Half right,
exploded. I said to myself, damn, I just saw 10 men die. My introduction to war. My 19th mission was where I got shot down.
bogeys coming in, 11 o'clock high. Bubble 23, this is bubble 24. Bogeys
I spent 9 months in Germany as a POW. We were there till April the 29th, 1945. We were liberated by General Patton's Third Army. We're sitting there, somebody said, there's a place down the road with a lot of dead people. What are you talking about? We got a Jeep. About 20 miles down the road, you could smell it before you got to it, because the ovens were still warm, where they were burning bodies. I saw Dachau, man's inhumanity to man. Whatever you see, whatever you've seen, whatever you can think, double it. And today, someone has the audacity to tell me that the Holocaust never happened. Came back across the Atlantic Ocean by boat, flags waving, Statue of Liberty. Here we come, walking down the gangplank, good thing back home. Bottom of the gangplank, a little white soldier, whites to the right and to the left. God damn it, back home.
Bogies coming in, 11 o'clock high.
And joining me now are three members of the Tuskegee Airmen, Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Milben, Master Sergeant Miguel Thornton, and Master Sergeant Alfonso King. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the history of the Airmen. I'm not sure a lot of the young people who are watching would even know what that is or what it's about.
Well, the Tuskegee Airmen and blacks in aviation actually go back to the First World War. People don't know that. Jacques Bullard was the first black fighter pilot, and he flew for the Lafayette Escadrille in France. Could not join the American forces because he was black. Then the Tuskegee Airmen came along, and of course everybody knew they can't fly, and that was proven that they could.
But they could. They were pretty good at it.
And they got very good at it. And they were the most sought after fighter escort unit in the MTO, the Mediterranean Theater of Operations.
Yeah, yeah. Master Sergeant King, talk about how the airmen relate now to sort of young people who are maybe interested but a little tentative about the idea of a career in aviation.
Well, when I came in later and I learned about them. I didn't get it in high school, but the idea was when I went to the service and I ran into Benjamin Davis out in California, and I didn't know who he was until he sat me down and told me who he was and what he did, and I said, I never knew. But you know, but to go back and pick up information about that and start reading on it, the history that they did, you know, I'm on their shoulders. I'm up here trying to carry on the legacy about for these kids here to get out here to be exposed to aviation, which they just don't get that chance, you know.
Yeah. Master Sergeant Thornton, talk about your experience with the Airmen. When did you know flying was something you wanted to do?
Well, I knew flying was something I wanted to do when I was 11 years old. Right here in Detroit, they had a newspaper called the Detroit Times, and I won a Young Columbus contest, and they flew me to Portugal and Spain.
Oh, really?
And from that point on, the little planes that we had when we were children, that we ran around the yard with a string on, didn't make sense anymore. Okay, and that was the first. Yeah. And then after going to Michigan, I entered the Air Force. And I was running track also in the Air Force, and I missed my plane. And in France, there was another plane leaving, the C-130, and they told me if I could catch it on the flight line on the tarmac, I could get up to Germany. So I got on the plane, and I went in to thank the pilot, and it was Don Thomas. He was a major at that time. And that had been my biology teacher. So the dialogue and everything continued. Right. And that's how I really got interested in Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah. Talk about that first time you flew a plane. What was that like?
Well,
any of it?
If you can just imagine,
Yeah, all right. We'll let you sort of gloss that over, right?
1953. There was only one terminal at Metro, and it was called the Executive Terminal.
Right.
And to go out there and look at the aircraft and just amazement of looking at it. And then to get on it afraid. My parents let me go.
Yeah.
But the flight was just so fantastic.
Yeah.
And then what it did was bridge a world that I didn't know. Okay, I found out more about my own culture and history going to Portugal and Spain.
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine that that's true now with that connection that you got to make with young people.
One thing that was interesting for me, after graduating from Davis Aerospace, I joined the Air Force and I got a ride, and it was with the squadron commander. And of course, back in those days, they wanted to take you up and make you sick and all the rest of that stuff. So he was going around doing all the loops and rolls, and I was in the back, and I'm saying, gee, this is the way G feels. I studied this in school. I can't lift my arm. I was having a blast, and he's doing everything in the world to make me sick, and it wasn't working.
I remember when I first got into the service, and I took my first flight going down to San Antonio, and we was up near Minnesota, and we picked up some more troops, and then we got back on the plane, and we got into a thunderstorm. I'm sitting on the wing, by the wing, looking out, and I'm seeing lightning strike the wing, and I'm freaking out. You know, I was like, we're going to crash. You know, my first time on the plane. Right? Yeah, the first time on the plane, and not my last time in the plane, you know. But when I got down there to Lackland and the training, they moved me up to Chinook, where we started learning about aircraft. I started understanding why the plane, the wing didn't fall off.
Why it didn't crash because of that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Talk about connecting with young people in the city about that history and how important that is to getting them interested in these careers in aviation.
Well, we're trying to counter this precept that everybody has that blacks can't fly, and blacks.
Do you feel like that's still
Yes.
something people say and think?
Yes.
Well, I'll give you an example. 2% of the pilots in the Air Force are black.
Is that right? Wow.
2.1% in the Navy are black.
Wow.
We have 44 presidents of the United States, one of which is
One
black.
was black, right.
2.2%.
Right.
You stand a better chance of becoming the next
being
black president than you do a pilot.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's critical
Yeah.
that we open the door for everybody who wants, not just blacks, but anybody who wants to get into aviation.
Yeah.
And when I went through, there was no role model in my school. There were those out there. And like Al, I didn't know about them until I read about them in 1955 in a Reader's Digest, and they talked to me about Benjamin O. Davis. It's not taught in school. I didn't know that Hannibal was black.
Yeah.
They don't teach that, or didn't teach that.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff. We need, if you take history, you break it down, his story, unless we learn our story,
right?
it's never going to be history.
Yeah. One of the things that's really interesting about this is also how young you can be to get involved. I mean, you don't have to be 18 or 21. You can get young kids involved.
You got 3 guys right back there that go to Davis Aerospace that fly solo by themselves.
Wow.
That's critical.
Yeah.
That means they can fly right now from here to Grand Rapids
On their
and back
own.
on their own, but you can't get your dad keys to drive.
Yeah,
there.
they're not, that's right. They don't have driver's licenses yet, but they can do that.
And then we have a speakers bureau where we go out into the schools and the community to share what's going on. Biblically speaking, going across the Jordan, the Israelites were told to leave stones right by the crossing.
Right.
Okay? And why did they tell them to leave the stones, the 12 tribes? They told them to leave those stones there, so when the people came after them, they would ask, what mean ye these stones? And so that's what we're doing. We've got to keep the legacy alive.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it's only 2.1%.
Yeah.
Okay? Given the population that we have, given the electronics and everything that we have now,
Yeah,
we
well,
keep telling.
and also given the population of African Americans in the military more generally, which is much larger. So you've got a pool there that could participate, but they're not.
We don't utilize it.
And see, it wasn't until 1960 when the airlines decided to hire black pilots.
Black pilots.
So you see that gap in between them, maybe 45 to 1960, to get this done, to get pilots in there. They were already qualified, and they didn't want them to be there.
Right.
And the second black pilot, commercial pilot, was Jim Edwards, and he was in our Tuskegee Airmen unit.
Oh, is that right?
Right here.
Yeah.
And there were 3 generals to come out of Tuskegee.
That's right.
General Davis, which was the original,
right. Yeah.
General Chappie James, and General Theus. And General Theus lived here in Detroit for Hell, I
Till he
knew him for
died.
30 years.
Right. Well, and Colonel Jefferson, who I mentioned
Yes,
in the open,
yes.
just awarded the bronze medal.
And Colonel
that's a huge
Jefferson and
deal.
I used to live a block away from one another.
Is that right?
Now just
For-
imagine that. You were authorized to receive a Bronze Star
Right.
in 1947,
Right.
and you don't
And you
receive
get it in
until
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot to overcome
Yeah.
still.
And
Why
then
is that?
Yeah,
one
right.
other thing, the first airmen to win Top Gun were Tuskegee Airmen.
Is that right?
The first.
See, there you go.
Okay.
These are the things we got to share.
And then the
with
trophy
young
was
people.
lost for years and years and years.
Actually,
Right,
50
yeah.
years.
Yeah. No, I remember when they found that, and
Right.
we had him on the show.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank
And
you
thanks
for having
for
us.
everything that
Thank
you're
you for
doing.
having us.
That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org. And as always, you can connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. And listen to our program on WDET 1019 FM. We'll see you next time.
American Black Journal on the Road is funded by the Debbie K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.